Wow. All righty. That happens. Man, life is good. It is Saturday, March the 28th. It is 2:41 p.m. I'm Leon Davis, and you're listening to Altitude Adjustment. This is the podcast about people, politics, and professions. This week, I'm going to talk about the economy and business, and that's coming up right now.
Welcome to Altitude Adjustment.
Tonight is our
All righty, thank you very much. Hold on a second here.
For NBC News, a veteran herself of the investment banking
Started
and business
this
world.
little. So anyway, so this week, this past month, we've had a situation where we've had to change how we've done things. We've been on lockdown, and life has been interesting, but it has been had a significant impact on the economy. And there were a couple of people who made statements that have a microphone that I felt that I wanted to highlight. And so let me first play this audio, and then I'll talk about it.
Tonight is our friend Stephanie Ruhle, senior business correspondent for NBC News, a veteran herself of the investment banking and business world, the host of the 9 a.m. hour on this network. Stephanie, tell us about Mr. Ackman, and what did you make of that very emotional warning for what we all may be in for?
So I know Bill Ackman pretty well, and while much of what he said is shared by a lot of business leaders. Tonight, for example, Rich Handler, who's the chairman and CEO of Jefferies, wrote a very thoughtful letter that could be a template for what the administration could do, sort of detailing that businesses, small and large, are really going to suffer here. In the financial crisis, the issue were banks, and the government came in and assured that they were solvent and made sure the rest of the system could work. Now what we have is a business crisis, and what we need to do to address the health emergency is stop business. Many business leaders, whether it be Mr. Handler, whether it be Mr. Ackman, have said maybe we need to shut down temporarily and really attack this. Because the thing is, Brian, businesses cannot survive. Most businesses, like individuals who live on credit cards, businesses live on leverage. And across most industries, they cannot survive something like this if it's a slow bleed. So many business leaders are urging the administration to do something more severe. Rich Handler has suggested not just doing a bailout, but saying let's actually create loans for these companies, and instead of writing a check to every American, put the money through these companies to their employees, and that will assure they will keep their jobs. Because 3 months from now, if all you're doing is paying the American people cash, they will not have any companies to go back to. So there are a lot of thoughtful solutions here, but I have to tell you, what Bill Ackman did today on television was so wildly irresponsible.
Okay, so that was Stephanie. And when I heard this, when I watched the video clip and I heard what she was saying, there is no clearer example of supply side economics. What she was talking about was plain and simple supply side economics, Reaganomics. I'm not saying that she specifically thought of it as supply side economics, but that's what it is. That's what it comes down to. So her concept and her idea, and so let me mention that she wasn't the only one who was proffering supply side economics. Steve Hilton of Fox News was also putting forth his idea of supply side economics. And if you listen to his video, so in the description of this podcast, you will find a link to both videos, and I encourage you to both listen to Stephanie Ruhle and Steve Hilton. Steve's video, he started in about him being a business person, having opened a business, and him having something to do with the policy side of, policing businesses. And then he proceeded to give his take on supply side economics. So let me share with you why supply side economics is bad. Just bad. So there are 3 rules. There are written rules, laws against like insider trading, protecting people from harmful products and services. There are unwritten rules like the customer is always right and business is there to serve the customer. And then there are natural rules. Supply side economics violates natural rules of the market system. The market system is about competition is good. The market will determine needed goods and services. And that means that when you purchase, businesses survive on your purchases. You vote for the companies that you want around with your dollar. And that's how we wind up with the companies that we want, that benefit us, and that do the things that we want them to do, and that we agree that is good for us. Supply side economicers are people like Stephanie and Steve that say, support the business. Let's make the business survive. Because the business survives, then it will take care of the people. It will determine what is good and fair and right for the people. And that is backwards. That is completely backwards. And that's why supply side economics was considered voodoo economics. It was businesses don't survive. If you don't go into a business and lay down your money, they have nothing to operate with. Everything that they have comes from you, the public. By supporting the business, there's going to be businesses that probably should not exist and would not exist, that are going to get, maybe these businesses were dying. They were on their way out, and they're going to get an influx of cash and resources to survive. And that's not how business is supposed to operate. That's not how things are supposed to go down. And so these couple of people, and maybe they recognize that they're supply siders, or maybe they don't recognize it. They just think that if a company fails and the jobs are lost, that companies aren't going to exist. And that's just not the case. So let me share with you. In 2019, there were 9,300 stores that closed. $9,300 stores that closed. Payless Shoe Source closed. 2,500 stores. They were established in 1956. But people didn't want Payless Shoes, so Payless Shoes closed. Or maybe Payless Shoes made some bad decisions. And we'll get more into that in a minute. Sears, 175 stores closed. They've been around since 1893. They filed for bankruptcy. They're going out of business. Walgreens, they've been around since 1901. They have 9,277 stores, and they closed 200 stores in 2019. They're the second largest pharmacy. Competition from CVS and other pharmacies is causing them to have to rethink their business. Family Dollar lost 390 stores. So businesses close. Businesses, from a combination of business decisions and changes in what people like and don't like, cause businesses to have to either make changes or close. Now, you may say, well, Leon, those are large corporations. The majority of customers or the majority of companies that hire employees are small businesses. So from 2008 to 2010, the recession killed 170,000 small businesses. Let me say that again. From 2008 to 2010, the United States lost 170,000 small businesses. Did that cause the economy to crash and burn? Well, of course not. Companies come and companies go. So telling people that the economy is going to crater because we've lost business isn't necessarily true. We will have to rebuild, but that doesn't end. Excuse me. That doesn't end the economy, and helping business is. I just don't think it's the way. There are certain businesses that are absolutely necessary. Now, Robert Reich, who was a economic advisor for Barack Obama, he says, don't bail out any business. And to some degree, I agree with him. Bailing out the businesses allow them to make bad decisions and keep making bad decisions. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute because you might have a question about that. But anyway, he says bail out no businesses, none whatsoever. Let them all live with what they've done. And to some degree, as I said, I agree with him, but I think there are essential businesses. So we have essential needs: food, shelter, clothing. Those are essential just to survive. So I think bailing out maybe grocery stores is important, not restaurants. Bailing out grocery stores, making sure that grocers are available so that people can go there and get food to sustain life. Not new clothing stores, but reused clothing, secondhand clothing stores, Goodwill, other small retailers that recycle clothing would be a business that are worthy of supporting during bailing out during this crisis, and then sheltering. So part of the reason that there's a concern, so the market system, so understanding the market system will help you understand, why I say what I say as far as building out businesses. We have a system. Our market system is designed so that we can, anyone with a desire can start a business providing a good service to help make the economy better, to help make life better for the citizens of that economy. of our economy. And with that allows new ideas to permeate throughout the society and find a better way to build a better mousetrap. There are other systems of economic management where a small group of people determine who will head companies and who will, what those companies services will provide and won't provide and how they provide them. But our system allows differing ideas. The more ideas that you place on doing something, the more likely you are to find solutions that more people are going to find useful. So allowing more people to participate, allowing more people to be a part of that economic system is a good thing. So now, what Stephanie and Steve were pushing was not helping the average citizen, not putting money into the average citizen's hand, but putting it in the hands of business and let business decide how society operates, how society moves forward, who determines how goods and services will be delivered. And that is absolutely backwards. When you or I or everyone go into a business and purchase, what we're saying is that we agree with how you're delivering your goods and services. We agree with your management strategies. We agree with, your pricing, and so we are voting we're voting our preferences, our choices with our dollars. If the government bails out a business, that is not us voting with our dollars. That is saving businesses who may have been on their way out, who may have been failing, and now they've got an infusion of cash and an infusion of resources to help them stay longer. And it is not a bad thing that businesses close. As I pointed out, that's part of our economic system. The feature is that businesses that don't make good decisions or don't have good products don't survive. Businesses have to make good decisions. If a business determines that in order to grow, business is risk. When you have a system where anybody can start a business, there's a risk. If your business requires startup capital, you're putting your startup capital out there believing that you have a good or service that people are going to want. If people don't want it, you will lose your investment. That is not a bad thing. That is part of the system. It's built into the system. You take that risk. If you believe that, so you've started your business or are you thinking of starting a business and you finance your business or finance part of your business or finance your growth through loans, that's an additional risk. So not only do you have to pay back that loan, so you have to make the resources, cost of the resources to finance, to pay back the loan and to pay back the interest on the loan. But that is a choice. So Stephanie said that is how business works. That is how business has chose to work. Businesses can put capital aside as they do business, put capital aside, and then finance their growth on that capital. But what they've chosen is, rather than build towards being better or growing, they're going to finance their way into it. And that's a choice. That choice is a risk. It has a risk associated with it. And if we bail out businesses that make bad choices, the system is not working properly, because you're supposed to learn from your successes and your failures in business, just as in life. And when businesses fail, they can always get an infusion of cash or get an infusion of resources, then they don't have to make those tough decisions. They don't have to recognize that their bad decisions are responsible for their bad outcomes. And you might say to me, well, this is an unusual situation. This is, something that they couldn't have planned for. And that's incorrect. So when you go into financing your business with loans, you recognize that you no longer become nimble, that you are leveraging your current situation on what you hope will happen. If you're producing 6 widgets a month and you want to produce 7 widgets a month, and you don't put the funds aside so that you can buy the necessary equipment or buy whatever it is that you need to start producing 7 widgets, and you decide, well, I'm going to finance this, then what you're saying is I'm going to continue to have the necessary influx of cash to pay off the loan and pay off and have what I need in order to grow to 7 widgets a month. So that's not, if you're not making the right decisions, it is incumbent upon the company to make the right decision, make the right choices. If you don't make the right choices, your business will fail. And it should be based on your choices. No, you could not have, or companies could not have necessarily known that the coronavirus was going to be an issue and that the economy was going to shut down completely. But you do know that it's quite possible that something can happen in your business and that you have to sustain yourself through low times. So take example, like I said, you're making 6 widgets a month. And at some point, it's quite possible that the market area that you're servicing is going to be saturated with widgets, which means people are going to slow down buying your widgets. So you may only start selling 4 widgets a month until people use up whatever the widget is that you produce, and then need to replace that widget. So there's an ebb and flow in business. You have to manage to that ebb and flow so that when you drop down to 2 or 4 widgets or 3 widgets a month, that you can sustain your business until you're back up to 6 widgets a month or 7 widgets a month, or to grow. And if you sustain that using loans, you've added risk on top of risk, because if the selling of widgets does not reach 6 widgets in the time that it takes you to pay back that loan, now you've incurred debt that is weighing you down much heavier. So, pardon me. So businesses are responsible for planning for difficult times, and if they if loans is one of their primary tools for business management, then they should be responsible for the risk that are associated with the loans. Part of the stimulus package, I think, was low interest or no interest loans. And so because there's still people who had loans during the 2008 recession. I think have not paid those loans back. And so now we're making no interest loans, and I don't know what the terms are. What is the payback timetable? How long do they get to use that money? And what happens if they default on that loan? What happens if that business does not survive? How is that structured so that we don't have to dispose of that money to people who should have, had a contingency plan for how they operate their business. So I'm just looking through my notes real quick here. So as I mentioned, there were essential businesses that I think that we should support, and that's food, shelter, and clothing, and not necessarily new clothing, but that's what I think is important. I am a firm believer in our market system, that if you go into business, you're responsible for managing that business in a responsible way. You can't grow your business and then, in order to try to survive, block other people from challenging you for the position that you've achieved. If you get complacent as a company and don't continue to innovate, and there are things that new innovations to come along, why should you be able to retain that position if you're going to slow the growth of society and the ability for society to access new goods and services that may be better for them? And so my concern with bailing out businesses is that, and I may have mentioned this, is that if they don't learn the lesson, if they're able to make the mistakes and constantly be bailed out of those mistakes, they will never learn from those mistakes. They will never make changes, and they will continue to look for escape hatches rather than better managing their business for the consumer. There are companies that constantly get negative reviews on customer service. Their customer service is absolutely horrible, and they're called out on it year after year after year. And because they don't have competition, because they've been given a monopoly or given an opportunity to not have to be challenged on their position, they don't have to make the changes. It's not imperative. There's no fire lit under them to make their customer feel that they have spent their money well, to be happy with the goods and services that they purchase. Those companies can literally ignore the screams and the displeasure that is expressed towards them until they're ready to deal with that. And they continue to raise prices. How do you raise prices when people are telling you they don't like you? I guess because they're forced into, if they want to have a service, they have to have you. So you believe that because they're giving you their dollar, that they're giving you their approval. And that's not always necessarily the case. I'd like to see our system work as it should. And hopefully we will get to that. Hopefully we will make that happen. And while I don't like the idea of companies having to go out of business because of this, if there's any uptick or any positive side of that, we may have new businesses that come into being that put the customer first and that are innovators and can compete for some of those positions that they couldn't compete for before. I'm going to thank you very much for taking the time to join me this afternoon. I blew my mic out earlier because I was doing some technical things, trying to make the show as interesting as possible. And so I had to redo the podcast basically. So I hopefully got everything squared away and that everything looks good and that the podcast was enjoyable for you. Again, I might take next week off. It is my intent to, but I might run across a subject that I really want to cover. This was one of them. I love business. I have been an entrepreneur. I had my own business since 1991. I haven't been as successful as I'd like, but I had the opportunity, and that's all I can really ask for. All I can ask for is an opportunity, and I had that, and so I'm happy. I've done my best to provide goods and services. I'm trying to do that here and now. If you've got the entrepreneurial spirit in you, you can't be defeated by losing your business. While it may be heartbreaking, entrepreneurs look for opportunities to be entrepreneurs. So hopefully you and your family will be safe during this time. If you are having some difficulty, you are a business owner and you're having some difficulty, I wish you the best. Hang in there. We always need you. We need people who want to provide the best of goods and services and help make society better.
That concludes this episode, and thank you for listening. This podcast is designed for live listener interaction. Visit the website, thelionsdenstl.wixsite.com/home for details about how to join the conversation. The video version of Altitude Adjustment is available on YouTube. Search for Lions Den STL. And the audio podcast is available on Stitcher.com, Anchor.fm, the iTunes Store, and the Google Play Music Store, to name a few. Look for Altitude Adjustment where you get your podcast, and consider making a contribution by visiting Anchor.fm/altitude-adjustment2. Remember, the internet is powered by your likes, shares, and comments. So please like, share, and comment on this and other episodes because it matters. As always, be cool, be calm, and above all, be careful. Look out for the other guy because they may not be looking out for you.